Hello.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Final Fantasy VI Worlds Collide. Today we are doing a skirmish of the Battlegrounds. This is the Veldt flag set, which my name is Arusta. My co-commentator today is Drinks Glue. Also, big shout outs to Nobody War, who is my co-commentator, who is running the background stuff of the restream. So thank you for everyone. So, Drinks, what do you know about this flag set or the Battlegrounds event in general?
Let's start with the battleground. Let's start with the battleground event. On the left of your screen, we have the dog Keith McRocks. But tonight, he is not the dog. He is the Dirty Imperial going against the number one returner, in my opinion, Herdsman. So the battleground event pits the Imperial side versus the returners. The two sides battle for control over various locations on the battleground map. And the end game is basically it's like a giant Final Fantasy VI game of Risk. The end game is to control as many territories or to control all of your enemies' territories, and you win.
Well, thank you. Except you're incorrect there. The correct answer is to root for the Empire rather than being the glorious Empire of Gestal and Leo and Vector, rather than being a filthy returner scum. But not everybody's perfect.
I noticed you didn't say praise Kefka in that part, but Kefka is also an Imperial, by the way. Let's not forget.
Details.
Let's not forget who you associate with, my friend.
Details. But let's talk about the flags here. So what we're doing tonight is a skirmish. So if you are part of Battlegrounds and have not run this seed, don't worry. This is not going to spoil you on anything. This is a seed roll just for tonight's race. So this is the Veldt flag set. And some of the interesting things, the most interesting thing about the Veldt flag set is that right from the start of the game, basically everything in the game gets plus 10 levels. Enemies, bosses, dragons. So everything you fight, your very first fight, is going to be way stronger than you are. Yeah, another big thing that ties in is that dragons are a big thing in this flag set. It's 6 characters, 9 espers for Final Kefka, but 4 dragons for Kefka's Tower Skip. And then if you do 3 dragons, you get plus 20 magic power, plus 20 speed, plus 20 vigor, and I think a bunch of rages too. So there's a lot of benefit to doing dragons.
You get 50 rages when you knock out that 3rd dragon. What the heart back on that scaling a little bit. So everything's going to start off at level 13 as far as a damage output standpoint. Monsters' HP will not be scaled the extra 10 levels, so they will be a term that we like to use called glass cannons. They're going to punch very hard, but they're going to die very easily for our runners.
Yep, absolutely. We're getting going starting here. It looks like I saw Sword Tech and Blitz on a couple, so those are very good commands to start with, and Morph, which is on a natural magic user, which is also very nice.
Yeah, and you see the pitiful stats with some of those characters. The stat range for the starting party is going to be anywhere from 50 to 90% of the original stats. So everything's going to be suboptimal for the players to start.
Absolutely. And then other things, since they start with Shadow, that's why you're seeing Keith go straight to do this check here.
And Keith finding out that you start with 0 GP the hard way.
Yeah, meanwhile, Turdsman going to do some looting. Didn't see if he got anything particularly notable. I don't think so, but at this point, when you start with no money, everything's useful.
Yeah, and Keith picking up a Force Shield. Force Shield is, in my opinion, my favorite non-elemental shield. That's not named the Paladin Shield to have. You're going to get an automatic shell that's going to cut 50% of all magic damage you eat to the face. So you basically do half damage on everything if you're the back road. Ooh, and that mill from Keith. That's juicy.
Absolutely. And some other things just in general about this flag set compared with the Ultros League that you might be familiar with is that the shop inventory is mostly shuffled. There's like 10% random. So, you're not going to find a lot of stuff which you wouldn't normally find in shops. Breakable rods are also barred from shops, which, and super balls. So those are what you'd normally use if you start off underpowered like you are here. You'd often use those to sort of bail yourself out, but that will not necessarily be an option right now.
Yeah, and as you can see with Key fighting a flame shield here, I believe chests are randomized to 35%, and that those are some juicy chests. And this typical Ultra Sleeve flag stat, I believe they're at 20%, so that's a 15% increase. And you can see in Keith's inventory, he's found a flame shield, he's got an Atmo weapon. That's a really juicy returner's hideout. And Turdsman is going to go find everything Keith just found as well.
Yeah, and so when you've got a seed that starts like this, where you're a bit underpowered, what's find out I'm a little underpowered? I like to do more looting than normal just to see if I can spike something that'll really help me push through.
I don't think there is an exact answer, but when I'm getting going like this, I kind of loot until I feel comfortable. Sometimes, Keith got really had us good solid finds in Returner's hideout. Now he's gonna go to South Figaro. If he can keep up that good luck, I wouldn't hit too many more places. I'd maybe just do both South Figaros, and I'm feeling pretty good, so I'm gonna start trying to do some grind fights. If South Figaro only has maybe one high tier item combined across both worlds, that's gonna put me a little farther behind being comfortable, even though that time clock has been going on. So I think what I'm gonna do is just loot until I feel comfortable. That those monsters are 10 levels ahead. You're very cognizant of that, and you're really, really cautious of that at this point in time. So you got to catch up somehow, and just going until you find the good stuff is how I would catch up.
Yeah, absolutely. And then there's also, of course, the option, which I wouldn't be surprised to see either run or take here, of just normally you don't necessarily love taking random encounters, taking off your Moogle charm, but I think, knowing that you're underpowered like this, that might be a good opportunity. Find somewhere that you can easily heal up and take a couple quick grind fights.
And Keith risking it all here, going to the lesser known barrel chest on the other side of the walkway, and it's just a magicite. Oh no.
Yeah, every time I skip that chest, I always find out later it's good, but every single time I've done it, I've never found anything good. But that Pearl Rod he just found is nice, because that's rods ignore magic defense, and they do, I believe, max damage roll. So with a Pearl Rod, that's a lot of damage that can be used to sort of push you through an early fight if you need it.
Yeah, unless really at this point his first boss he comes across, if he does a grind fight or two, there's not, unless it's Rexol or Toilet Atma, that Pearl Rod's pretty much going to wipe any boss, just about, because of the low HP pool and how much damage it will do. So it's almost as if he's already won his first fight. Yeah, and the paths haven't strayed too much for our runners. Everybody's going to go to South Figaro. You get access to the basement. The basement has a plethora of chests, and then all the shops are right here. We'll start to see some branching paths once both of the runners complete South Figaro, and we'll see where they go.
Yeah, I mean, especially with a Celis start here, you get this check here, and it's just a red cap in this case, but it's not. It doesn't increase scaling, but since it was a dead check, but it's also a nice high tier item, so you can't really complain too much about that.
Yeah, and Keith had just found in the prison cells before Celeste check, he had found a force armor and a red cap. So that, while that's not incredibly useful, that's gonna fund a high tier item that you maybe find in the shop later on.
Absolutely. And there's also quite a few, I think that was either a second or third set of earrings that we've seen thus far for Keith. And earrings are, of course, a very useful item here in Worlds Collide, because they actually stack. So if you have 2 earrings, that's quite a bit of magic increase on your magic. So that's a very nice find as well, because it will also power up those rods if you need it to help push through.
Yeah, so both of our runners, when they come out of South Figaro, are because on a couple of earrings, a pearl rod, and a thunder rod, and then at least enough money for 1, maybe 2 high tier items, maybe 1 and the Zen Thief Esper if it's relatively on the cheaper side. Let's see where Keith decides to go.
Looks like going to Zen here. I kind of like this idea of seeing if you can buy something, because it is worth noting that the thing is, the levels are bosses and dragons in terms of level scaling. So you are not actually Sorry.
That was a 1200. Oh, excuse me, 1198 GP Esper, just a hair under 1200. That's about as good as it gets.
Exactly. And what I was just about to say is that the way the scaling is set up for this, that Esper doesn't actually increase your scaling. So, he hasn't made the seed any harder on himself.
Yeah, so other than those two rods, and we do have that admin weapon from returners, but admin weapon's not going to come online until around level 32 for anybody, so it's not going to do us any good yet. So we really just have those two rods, and that's the only meaningful damage so far we found.
Yeah, and I also wouldn't be surprised to see them maybe go over to do the free check in Colingen in, since they have Setzer as well.
Mm-hmm. Oh, looks like Keith's going to keep on looting and see what Albrook has to offer. If you were Keith right now, Arusta, what's the one item you want to see pop up in this weapon shop?
I mean, you always want to see like, an Illumina or a Ragnarok or something like that. But on a lower level, I'd like to at least see like earrings aren't bad, though he's already got a few. Something like a enhancer just to really kick up my magic. That would be nice. Or Magus rods from the shield, because those are always super cheap and they give +5 magic, so they're secretly a very good item.
White dress, but Keith's going to pass on it. Monsters do hit, as we mentioned, monsters are going to hit harder, so white dress, while it does give a nice magic boost, is on the lower tiers as far as defense provided. Some shurikens for Turdsman.
Yeah, I mean, I like that just as a general play, is buying, if you run across shurikens, buy a few dozen of them, because they're so cheap that if you never end up using them, you're not going to miss the $1,000 you spent on them. But if you do find someone with throw, it's always good to already have that in your bag.
All right, so as we mentioned, now that both runners are out of South Figaro, we do have some branch. Well, we had a branching path, and now they're both going to the Thamasa at the exact same time.
Yeah, and I think Turdsman they've also, the only real difference thus far is that Keith has done the
Oh,
Zen.
baby, Arusta. I'm sorry to interrupt, but when you
Oh,
say
experience egg,
experience
yes.
egg, you just get excited. Yeah, it's not a matter of how many, how many you're going to get. It's a matter of how many you can afford, then you get that many.
Yeah, I mean, this early in the seed, when you haven't even taken a fight yet, I would be selling almost everything I can imagine.
Yeah, Keith's been a little selective, but I'd let it all fly.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'd be selling all those magicite. I'd be selling, like, you keep the rods, you keep the earrings, maybe you keep one of the force armors and force shields, but everything else I'm tossing the dumpster.
All right, he's creeping up on the enough for one. He's holding on to those red caps. He lets one go. I mean, he's gonna get the one.
Yeah, I bought one.
That's all right. Inflation's rough. You got to feed your family first. I understand.
Yeah. I mean, and especially in a scenario like this where for Keith's side, you've already bought the Zen Esper, that's usually where most of your money outside of buying stuff is going to go. So, I would plan on, hey, I'm coming back here, or I'm spending as much as I can, because experience eggs are just so good.
Yeah, let's see if Turdsman's approach is going to be a little different here. I think I would take two out of here. You have that ammo weapon. You can throw it on Celeste and just let Celeste sit on an experience egg for a while, and then once it's time, slap that admin weapon on her. And then I would just throw it on the remaining character with the highest possible magic and let that person be a caster, and the third person can stand there and look pretty for all I care.
Yeah, it looks like Turdsman's also only getting one, but again, I think Turdsman doesn't have all that much to sell.
Mm-hmm. Right, let's see what's in collagen. Aegis Shield, oh no.
Yeah, but that is one of those things where it's not what you want to see, but you also don't really feel like you wasted a lot of time doing it, because your opponent is taking that free check. So
I do like Heat's strategy. He went and got the walkway barrel in South Figaro. He's getting the back of the Phoenix house. chest that not a lot of people get. Um, it's not a bad idea to take a couple stabs at some of those things and just see if you can spike something that your opponent won't get and just carve out a nice little advantage for yourself. You just don't want to do it too much. You don't want to spend 10 minutes running around visiting Miranda, going to chests that nobody else in there even remembers exist. But doing a one or two of them in the opening stages is not a bad idea.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Tursman looked like taking some grind fights
Hmm.
to do the Opera House, but then the grind fight ended up being Leafer. So totally understand why you bailed out there.
Yeah, no, Turds is going in. He's telling the composer to hit the music. He wants to fight.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, if the grind fights are that worthless, I completely agree with, hey, let's just go get our grind fights as part of the check.
Yeah, Keith giving nobody wore the okie doke. We thought he was going to Floating Continent, but he's going to South Figaro. When I'm racing against somebody, I almost always visit both South Figaros just because it's in the middle of the map. It's such a central hub for everybody to come across that there's too many people that are going to go there, and there's too good of a chance of there being something useful there that everybody else will find and not you. And you kind of do the reverse of what we talked about earlier of trying to spike some random chest that you're almost giving yourself a disadvantage just because it's such a central hub point for everybody to visit that if there's good stuff here you don't come across, you're going to be way behind the eight ball.
Yeah, and it has paid off for Keith getting a Thunder Shield, which, that's a late game caliber equipment, or
Hmm.
if you get really desperate, you can break it. Oh, and Magus hats, those are buy them, Keith, buy them. There you
Yes,
go.
good job, Keith. I mean, bad job, Keith.
I
Oh.
think the one thing here, though, is I do think it's interesting that Keith is still sort of doing a little more looting.
Hmm.
At some point, I feel like, especially with that Esper, I do think, you just need to go, hey, I can do some looting as I go through. 14 minutes into a seed, at some point, you have to go, like, hey, I'll open chests as part of a check.
Hmm.
So,
And you look at his available party. If he were to go to Daryl's tomb, there's three very reasonable chests he could have grabbed. If he chooses to go to um, Magitech Factory, there's at least three chests with a very grabbable range. Five if you go a little bit out of your way, so you could start working some looting into your natural progression of completing checks as well. Now at this point,
yeah, absolutely. I do not know if Keith has shown us what's on that Esper yet or not, though.
he has not. I think what he's going to do here is do some grind fights at the save point.
Yeah, that's
Not to,
kind of what I'm expecting here.
but
Oh,
I think he's going to run into a locked door here.
yep. If I recall correctly, you actually can get the clock chest without lock or without breaking open the door in the
Yeah, that
World of
door
Rude,
isn't
but
locked,
it's
so you can do the full walkthrough. If the left where you go to the Moogle side, you can complete that whole walkway without lock. That door does not lock.
yeah, though, it's probably in this case where you've already walked up to it, I might have dipped in there just to grab it, but it's probably not worth doing just on its own.
Hmm.
And also, I didn't see where Turdsman picked it up, but I did see Turdsman has a sniper equipped. That is a pretty nice thing to have. It's potentially an endgame item, endgame caliber item. Does a lot of useful damage, especially on the tiers in Kefka, because it actually triggers the plus 50% bonus.
Yeah, and then also if you slap it on the Morph user when you use it in Morph status, you're gonna trigger all the extra benefits that you get from having Morph gone, and it just kind of multiplies on top of each other and gets really out of hand fast. So it's a great end game item, especially on a Morph user.
Yeah, and that Esper had Fire 2 and a Magic Power +1, so not a bad Esper.
And Turdsman taking down another Scullion, that's huge because you can see he's level 17 and 14 now. And unless this boss is something nasty, he's gonna take it down pretty easily.
Yeah, and I mean, even if it is something too nasty, he does have earrings plus two different rods to break. So
Well, he braked a Thunder Rod on the first Scullion to take it down, so he's sitting on his Pearl Rod. So as long as this isn't something that absorbs Pearl, he has a break glass in case of emergency type item to consume. Let's see what he's dealing with. It's always a long pause before everybody comes together on the stage here. And that's a great find for Turdsman. If he chooses to use that rod, that ghost train's gonna go down in one turn. It's only a matter of if he's gonna suplex the train or not.
When do you learn? I think he has. I think his blitzer's 14. So I don't
he's level
remember
14, so he should have blitz. Excuse me, he should have suplex. He's 14 on the dot with his non-experienced A characters. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I apologize. Turdsman did not give the people what they wanted. I will scold him in the chat after the race for y'all, for everybody. He will not get away with that. And Keith knocking out his first fight as well, learning a couple level two spells for his effort. And Mog is the reward for Turdsman for doing Opera House. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it looked like that Mog had kind of crummy stats, but health and natural magic, so might be able to fix up those stats a little bit.
Rista, if you're Turdsman here, what's your play? I'll tell you mine, and it's pretty simple. I'm a big believer in once I find my first character, I immediately go start doing that character's checks just because another character is more likely to be waiting behind his checks. What are you doing here if you're Turdsman?
Yeah, that was my thought too. Is like I think I'm pushing the Mog checks since they're 3 checks. They all chain together very nicely. The Lone Wolf to Kefket Narsh to Moogle defense. Especially with where he's at in terms of levels, it's not likely you're going to run into a boss at Moogle at Kefket Narsh that you can't handle with 3 characters. So I think that's where I'm going. Where are you going?
I'm for sure going to Kefka Narsh and then Moogle defense. Even better that Turdsman hasn't been here yet, so he can do the chest for all the treasure room up there while he's up there. 2 birds, 1 stone. And again, statistically, he has a better chance of finding a character here than he is if he was to go to Floating Continent or if he was to go to Magitech Factory or another multi-part check. Yeah, it looks like he's having some trouble trying to take some grind fights.
Oh, I'm surprised Turdsman used the smoke bomb there because I believe specters are vulnerable to revivify, so could have just as easily killed it, honestly.
Yeah, his sniper user probably would have took it out in 1 turn, but and he would have got a hyper risk first trouble. But the faster move is probably using the smoke bombs, and there's nothing wrong with trying to save some time.
Yeah. Keith surviving grind fight, very nice.
So I forgot Turdsman had came up here. Maybe that was where he found the sniper. I could have swore he bought the sniper, but I may be mistaken.
Ooh, a headband purchase. That's an interesting one. You don't see those a lot. I believe it gives... Does it give plus strength?
It gives a couple vigor points.
Okay, yeah.
And 2, remember, he starts with no equipment and then no money. So I think maybe what he's thinking is, I would treat this situation where I treat Yamaro. Sometimes if I see Yamaro can equip like a diamond helm and I have a bunch of money and I'm using Yamaro and money's no issue and that diamond helm was 8k, I just go ahead and buy it and throw it on him just to give him a little extra protection because I'm sorry, I'm interrupting myself, but we got an Illumina sighting on Keith's screen.
Yeah, I like that play by Keith to take a look at the Coliseum here because these flag sets, about 50, it's 120 out of the 255 items are revealed, so about half of them. So may not necessarily want to be the very first thing you do because you want to make sure you have a decent amount of items in your bag to check around, but I kind of like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's huge because he doesn't have the sniper Turdsman has. Keith going back for seconds. What's he going back for?
I think Keith was just seeing if he had anything else.
Yeah. Unless you really want a gym box. I may do the gym box just because it will sell for so much.
Yeah.
That feels pretty good for Keith right there. All right, this is a pivotal moment for Turdsman. The downside coming up here at Kefka and Arsh is it's a huge time commitment. You got to do the lone wolf check, get all the way up there, start it, and then the Kefka and Arsh check does take a little bit of time to work through, pass all the boss skips. Excuse me, not the boss skips, the monster skips. And if you come into a nasty boss here, it is a huge pretty time waste when you have to reset out and either walk back down or just reset all the way out and not save and lose all that time you invested. It's a risky play, but I still think it's the right move for Turdsman.
Yeah, I mean, with these 3 checks back to back, I think you want to make that play.
Yeah, if Mog is a character, it's going to be at the Moogle defense. Magus Rod, the wolf can die.
I mean, it's not a bad item, but you're not going to pass up the potential of a progression item for a Magus Rod.
Anyway, Ultros roams the skies for Keith.
Stop and a magic MP increase, which is okay, I guess. Stop can be useful in a couple spots. It's not particularly what you're liking to see, but it's not. You're not off mad you have it.
Yeah, an Esper is still an Esper. You still need an item at some point.
Ooh, and that is Golem, which is very nice for Keith. That is Calmness Protection, which is the very end of the seed. The tier 3 of Final Kefka does an attack called Calmness, which will instantly kill your characters, but it is physical, so Golem basically shuts that attack right down. It was on Search the Skies, so you would assume Turdsman is going to get it at some point too, because that's just such a fast check.
Yeah, and Turdsman still hasn't done the Zen Thief check, so he has 2 Espers relatively fast waiting for him. Even though he's just sitting on the one that gives a stop and MP, he'll find 2 more fast if he desires. Dullahan, nothing to be too scary to be afraid of here. And Keith is going to go on to Daryl's tomb where Dullahan normally resides. We'll see what's waiting from down there shortly.
A Blizzard Orb, which I believe is the thing he traded for an Illumina, so I wouldn't be surprised if Keith remembers that if he goes back and makes another trade at some point.
Yeah, if he remembers that, you're already in the area. I would go straight there after this check. I would almost, even if he goes to the tomb and reads the spoil that it's a Genji glove or a Genji shield, I would almost do it just so I hold on to that Blizzard Orb, do it, then go get my other Illumina, rather than coming back in for my Blizzard Orb.
Yep, meanwhile, Turdsman has no trouble with Dullahan. Fire 2 just rips him to shreds pretty quickly.
And we haven't seen anybody go take on a dragon yet. Eventually, I think our runners will start working that into their pathing, because at 3 dragons, as we mentioned earlier, you're going to learn 50 rages, which isn't important right now because we haven't found a rage user. But that's how you get all your stat loss back. That's how you're gonna get plus 20 magic, plus 20 speed, plus 20 strength when you take on your 3rd dragon. And as you consistently saw when they found Mog and our starting characters opened their status menu, everybody is on the lower end stat wise. Everybody's magic power is in the 20s and the strength is in the 20s, if that. So at some point in time, we're gonna see some dragon fights.
Yeah, this is not the boss you want to see here.
That is not. As I switch back off my notes, I'm sorry, Keith. I feel your pain right now, my friend. And Setzer fills it as well, apparently.
Yeah, that is a very good call to just burn the rod on that. That is a boss you want out of your hair as soon as possible.
And that could be a brick. That could be a turning point later on for Turdsman. Turdsman has to go down there as well. And when he goes down there, he potentially could be at a higher scaling. So a single Pearl Rod will not take down his Magimaster.
Yeah, Terudo has Ice 2 and an HP increase, which, meh. I mean, I guess it completes the level 2 spells because already got a Fire Shield, Thunder Shield, and Fire 2 from an Esper, so. And yeah, Keith going to trade that Blizzard Orb right in. Definitely agree with that call.
That's fantastic memory right there by Keith. I can't even remember what I had for dinner, and I had dinner maybe 30 minutes ago. Yeah, it doesn't even matter if Shadow or Setzer can't use the Lumina. You just hold on to it, and if you find a Locke or an Edgar, they're instantly viable.
Absolutely, and it's also something where, or if you find a Genji glove, like there are plenty of ways to make that Illumina useful, and Setzer can use it. So there you go. 2 of your characters know what they're doing at the end for the entire rest of the seed.
Yeah, and remember too, he has that experience egg, and he's sitting on an Atma. So I would almost at this point maybe sit off that Atma, maybe separate from it, and then, you know, the pros of that is that Atma may need an offering to become as viable as those Luminas, but the problem with an offering is they're so hard to find, and it's a huge time investment if you end up doing 3 or 4 monster box checks looking for it. So with 2 other swords, if I were Keith here, I would not bother. I'd part with it the next time I was in a shop and just stock up on sleepy bags or something with it.
Yeah, a jump lore Gao, which is quite good for a Gao, actually.
It's very good for Gao. Gao is the most underrated character in my opinion because he always gets 2 chances at abilities, and sometimes you get 2 good ones stacked together.
Yeah, the only unfortunate thing is when you get 2 garbage abilities, but you know, it is what it is. Take the good with the bad, I guess.
And I don't think anybody's found dried meat. I think Turbin's going to check the... Maybe Turbin didn't, I'm just misremembering. I thought he was going to check the airship shop here.
So if not, there's actually, you get 1 free dried meat from the Serpent Trench check.
I believe Turdsman heard you because he just put his pool party back together and he's going for it. Nope, he's changing his mind. Maybe he already has dried meat. Yeah, he must already have the dried meat if he's doing this. The bad news is as you can see on Keith's screen, he fought all those Scullions in the Opera House. So those are going to be some of his random encounters, and he's going to either have to smoke bomb or try to take those down for no XP. If I were him, I'd smoke bomb the moment I saw one.
Yeah, but it is good on Keith's side getting a bunch of experience here.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be interesting to see. I believe this is where we found Mog. It'll be interesting to see if Keith follows up with Turdman and basically beelines Mog's checks.
Never a bad time to see Realm in the first 30 minutes of a seed.
Yeah, Steel's not a great command, but even in these reduced magic power stats, she still has pretty good, high enough base magic power that it's still not bad.
Yeah, and then that 28 is essentially a 48 starting magic power once he does all of his dragon's commitments. But nope, he's gonna pass on the opportunity to add Realm.
Yeah, they didn't point this out, but apparently the golem that Keith got from Search the Skies does have Pearl at a fairly nice at a ×3. So Pearl is a spell you always nice to have in the bag. It's fairly high damage.
All right, as Keith isn't going to find any new information here, and Turdsman's going to pop down into the Serpent Trench. So while we have a minute, Keith, Arusta, let me posit something to you. Have you ever been asked the question of, do you wonder, do they use, what do they make the Moogle suits out of?
I have not, but every time I play Final Fantasy V, where you actually get in the Moogle suit that's in just a remote village, I have to wonder about it because it's like, there's not much here. They don't have manufacturing plants in this remote village.
Yeah. So the last stream I did with Schwantz, he posited that to me. Do you think they make the Moogle suits out of the Moogles from Narsh? And if you think about it, you do find the Moogle suit in the 1%er town. We don't really know what happened to all the Moogles in Narsh. You don't ever come across them again, so you kind of wonder, did they get poached? I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I guess I hadn't thought about it in that way, but yeah, it is the wealthy town.
I mean, I guess they have exotic taste.
Yeah.
All right. So I have one more thing I want to posit to you.
Hopefully not as dark as that last one.
Oh, it's even darker. I apologize in advance, my friend. But what does the Man-Eater do in Final Fantasy VI? Let me ask you that.
In terms of abilities, it does, extra damage to humans.
And where can you buy one in Final Fantasy VI?
I don't remember vanilla. I want to say I thought you bought them in I don't know. I don't remember vanilla enough to answer that.
So you can buy one in Jador, and I've always wondered, do they sell those in Jador to the citizens can attack the Zozo people that may come down from the mountain into Jador? I don't know, but I've always wondered that, and I was hoping you had a quick answer for me.
I mean, I guess that's possible.
All right, looks like he's going to get his Mog for his efforts in the Opera House here.
Yeah, meanwhile, if you're Turdsman, where are you going once you finish up this check? You've got 6 characters, so you don't need any more characters.
You would almost say, statistically, oh no, daggers are flying for Turdsman. I think he'll be fine, though. I would almost say which characters you have that are more likely to be, whose checks are more likely to be characters because you found them post-start. So he still has some very good multi-part checks in Magitech Factory and Floating Continent that are less likely to be characters. There's still a chance if he were to go to both, 50% of the checks could be characters, but it would be on the lower end of outcomes. So I think that's where I'm going. Probably Magitech, and if it's all Espers, then I'm going straight to Floating Continent after that, and I could be sitting at 8 Espers at around 50-ish minutes. That's pretty good for this flag set. Yeah, the other options Turdsman is going to have on the table is he could go to the Jador that we just spoke so elegantly about in the World of Warren. He could do the Esper Cave. But the problem with those is they're more likely to be characters. Anything you find as a character right now is just going to be a time sink in terms of your overall progression. Adding extra characters doesn't do anything for you progression-wise. It only gives you more options to maybe do something faster next. So I would target some less likely to be character checks, if that makes any sense. Looks like Keith's going to go down to the cave on the Veldt and see what's cooking down there.
Yeah, the other thing I think I'd do that I don't think Turdsman has done yet is I might immediately, or the next time I'm in World of Rune, immediately do the Search the Skies check just because it's so fast. So, there's no real sense in putting it off just to put it off. Mm-hmm. I think something like something like Veldt Cave, I might dip it if I go into World of Ruin just to see what's there. But I do like the idea here of checking out Esper Mountain.
Yeah, typically with Veldt Cave, Veldt Cave would be one of those things that a lot of people would like to save for last just because it's peekable. And if you come across it here and it's something you don't need, you just reset out and go on about your way. But one thing I do like about doing Veldt Cave early is that a lot of other people will hold off on that. So if you go do that, you see its progression, and it's a very viable character, or if it's an Esper that gives +2 stats, you'll find that earlier than everybody else, and then have a leg up, and you've crafted an advantage for yourself.
Yeah, and the one thing as well with this Esper Mountain, if you saw it, it looked like an Imperial soldier, is that if it's a character, which you don't need, it is peekable that you'd see that character and know to just reset right out. And
really, at all of the checks, I don't think we've come across one that was dead that could have been live, but there will only be 4 dead checks out there that could possibly be progression. That's not relevant right now. That's just a fact, something to keep in mind as they dart around both worlds now.
Yeah, meanwhile, Keith showing off that at the Veldt Cave there is the Phantom Esper, which makes everybody invisible, so it's calmness protection if you don't have real calmness protection, but Keith already does, so unless it teaches something useful, it's just another list to the number.
Yeah, the nice thing about Phantom is perfect for 10 hits because you'll put invisibility on everybody, and it will trigger a much faster animation on the miss and save you about 10 to 15 seconds. Yeah, if nobody were in the chat mentioned floating continent's move, I think at some point in time in the next 5 minutes somebody's going to go up the floating continent. And we know it's at the end of this for Turdsman, unfortunately.
Yeah, and to do a quick correction, asking in chat, the skip is 4 dragons, which at this point, I can't see anyone going for, because especially not Turdsman, because a lot of the dragons are ones they either can't get to, like Ancient Castle, or ones which make 0 sense to go to, like why are you going to Mount Zozo without Cyan, even though I think you technically can. You just don't get the reward.
He has to be in the party for the Rust Rid to be viable. You can go up there if Wyvern move is on, but Wyvern move is not on, so he's gated behind Cyan to get up there.
Yeah, I mean, and then there's stuff like there's, I guess, 2 dragons in Kefka's Tower, which at that point would killing the dragons and then warping out be faster than just already walking through, since you have to move 2 different parties up there, stuff like that. So I just don't see them getting the 4 dragons.
Well, we also haven't found I came across a character that you would work into a dragon check, like a Cyan or a Strago or an Edgar.
Yeah.
Or even a Locke, really.
I mean, at this point, you'd have to be pretty interested in the dragons to go do Phoenix Cave, because you don't really need all the stuff. Ooh, Gigantos. This is a nice find there for Turdsman in this monster in a box check. Gigantos gives the highest experience for a regular monster in the game, so going to really boost up the levels there.
Yeah, that's really going to give Magimaster a lot of XP here in the next fight after he takes down Turdsman, unfortunately. Yeah, oh, nope, I stand corrected. We're seeing Berserk on Turdsman's screen, so he'll be just fine. That's very fortunate for my friend. Yeah, Magimaster is weak to Berserk, and if you can get it off on him before you attack him once, he will not put on his wall change and only have 1 elemental weakness. He will be weak to everything.
Yeah, the interesting thing, so I think looks like he did open, I did see Turdsman open a couple chests in here, so I assume he got the Blizzard Orb since that was right in the way. Mm-hmm. Oh, yep, he did. It'll be interesting to see if he actually dips Coliseum here, because you know he's going to immediately, if he does, grab that Illumina and be thrilled about that.
Yeah, I couldn't tell, did he equip the Blizzard Orb? Because if he equipped it, it won't be in his inventory, and he won't know that he can get Illumina for it.
Yeah, I don't think he did. I think he left it in the inventory.
Yeah, let's see if Tersman knows the way. Yep, there he goes. Phenomenal awareness by Turdsman there.
Yeah, meanwhile, Keith is going through the checks here, the Mog checks, as Nobi War points out in chats. Keith is going to get a 5th character and 2 more espers here, so even though it looks like Turdsman is significantly ahead, it's actually a lot closer than it looks, especially with how fast Keith is just ripping things to shreds with the Illuminas.
Mm-hmm. And another downside to Magimaster is the high evasion stat that he has. So even though the Atma weapon is online, where his experience is less, it still has to hit him. And it won't always will.
Yeah, and you're also seeing, if you saw Gao jump for a whopping 51 damage, is that anything which doesn't ignore defense also is bad against Magimaster, because Magimaster has high defense. So Dispatch does, of course, magic is magic, but Atma weapon does. But something like jump or fight, if that's what you're relying on, that's not what you want to see.
Yeah, 6 and 5 now for Herdsman. Feeling pretty good. Turdsman hasn't ran into a lot of resistance, even with that Magimaster fight. Keith is about to stumble across some progression really fast here by benefit of doing Esper Mountain Arsh Mountain that Turdsman already done. But I would say Turdsman is probably 1 to 2 minutes ahead in the grand scheme of things. And if he can keep going at this pace, just don't give those minutes back, he should be able to pull this out. What do you think, Arusta?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think Turdsman definitely is in the lead, especially since there's one, at some point he's going to do the Search the Skies check, because it's just such a quick check for an Esper. And I believe that was Ultra, so Turdsman is going to basically 1 or 2 shot it. So that's 1 more Esper, and plus Zen Thief, should he decide to go there. So those are 2 more quick Espers that I presume Turdsman will at least check at some point.
I think he took this fight on purpose. Either his controller died at an opportune time, or he took this fight on purpose to gain a few levels. And so, as you mentioned, Turdsman hasn't done Search the Skies. I believe he still has Zen Thief available as well, so he has 2 Espers he can get in a span of about 90 seconds if he desires.
Yeah, he does.
Alright, Telstar is not what you want to see as a monster in a box.
Yep, and I agree with smoke bombing away. Even though Telstar dies pretty quickly, it's really not worth that time for a green beret. So just real quick, since we know we're about to see some stuff we've already seen, this is the Battlegrounds. So this is what's called a skirmish, which anybody out there, if you're part of Battlegrounds and you want to do a skirmish, basically you just post in the race channel and challenge the lousy resistance rebellion scum to a battle and fight for the glorious empire. And then basically you just set up a race, and you can do any of the flag sets that happen to be open that week. So it's a great way, if you want to get some practice in before running the actual seed. It doesn't count for the war score for the which team wins or loses long term, but it is a good way to get practice, and it does count for your individual contribution to I believe there's at the end of it, there's some awards that go to people who have contributed the most to their team. So yeah, something worth trying if you haven't given one a shot yet.
If you do a skirmish that involves 3 or more people and you win it, you get 3 war medals. If you do a 1v1 skirmish with just 2 people and you're the winner, you get 2 war medals. If you are the first place in a battleground site for your team, you get 5 war medals. And that's for both sides. If the top returner and the top Imperial scum will get 5 war medals, whoever's the top spot at their battleground location. and you get one more medal for every spot that your time counts towards your team. So it varies based on if it's neutral controlled or empire controlled, and vice versa. But if your time is submitted and it counts towards your team total time, because it's in the top number of places, you get one war medal for each one of those finishes.
Yeah, and actually, you get one war medal, one war medal, no matter what, just for finishing the battleground of the week. So even if you're not in the top 6 or top 8 or whatever, you still at least get something for your efforts.
Yeah, and we discussed this a little bit in the returner hideout. I'm not a trader, but I will share some friendly advice to all the Imperials come out there. There is no way to hurt your team by running a flag set or by running one of the flag sets for the week. You can only help. So only the top times are counted up to a certain amount. That time varies. You can look at the event details for the exact number. But there is absolutely no downside to running a flag set for each side. Or excuse me, each site, not side, and you can only help. There's absolutely no way you can hurt the team by trying to participate, and you are strongly encouraged to do so, and do so at your own pace, and do so at your own comfort level.
Absolutely, and the other thing as well is that, I mean, for this first week, they're all 6. I believe they're all six top times counted. So you might look at that and be like, well, I'm not going to be a Falcon hit or like someone top tier runner like that.
Yeah,
and that's
top tier runner like a rooster here.
Nah, that's definitely not true. But, in some of the later weeks, like it gets up to, I believe, like the highest is like 12 or 13. So it's like, maybe I won't be the top 6, but top 12 is something where it's like, that's a lot more viable that, hey, I might actually be required and my time might get counted because that's a lot of people who need to run it and do well. So.
Yeah, and then in the future weeks when the returners are squashing the empires, and we move into the empire flag sets, more returner times will be needed to push into those territories. So more returner times are submitted will count towards the Empire's time, while the Empire's time will have a lesser number that count towards their average time, just to make it harder to win in the enemy territory. So it gives you a little bit of it's designed to give you a little bit of an advantage the farther into the home base a side pushes.
Absolutely, and you are allowed to do as many of the 3 flag sets as you want. You're not limited to just one. So. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, catching back up on the race real quick is that Turdsman did stop and get the 6th Esper off the Zen Thief on the way here to Albrook, or excuse me, to Jadur Chardanook check.
Yeah, fun fact about this room Turdsman's about to go into. It's one of the few chests you can get even when you're in absolutely go as fast as you can mode, just because you have to wait for those doors to progress. And while you're doing that, you can grab that chest no matter what.
Absolutely, and that magical brush is actually, if you're using magic, it's not a bad stat stick to have. Provides a decent amount of magic power, so.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Keith is tying it up right here at 6-6, I believe.
Mm-hmm. You think Keith is going to keep his realm here?
I doubt it, because both Celis and Stetzer are using Illuminas, so they're obviously better. And then I think some of the other characters are big too. So. Meanwhile, on Turdsman's side, one thing just to note is that you see it was a ghost painting the picture. That is actually a good thing, because if that is a character, you can actually see it's a character. So since Turdsman doesn't want characters, it's kind of a peekable check, though peekable right at the end.
Yeah, where does Keith go after this? Does he hop in the trench? It was an Esper, and Keith is in Turdsman's situation now where he just needs Espers as fast as possible.
I could see going to the trench. I could also... Turdsman doesn't have a whole lot of majorly peekable checks here. So, I could see the trench. I could see doing Esper Mountain, which, is also a pretty quick check. Mm-hmm. I mean, I could also maybe even see if you wanted to do the first 2 of Magitech Factory and see where that gets you. I could see that as a decent option too.
Yeah, that's probably where I go if I'm Turdsman here. He hasn't done Magitech yet. You get an Esper here, then you go down there, and it's 2 in a row. He's got the unlock at 57, 58 minutes for a hard, difficult flag set. That's incredible time.
Yeah, and that is, I believe, a 7th Esper.
Yep, Tersman may have heard me. Where's he? Oh, yeah, he still has Search the Skies. Excuse me. He just needs one more Esper now.
Yeah, so if I only need one Esper, I am definitely going to Magitech Factory here because you get 2 checks really quick, right after the other. And then you can bail right out with a Warp Stone. And then it's a little subtle thing. It also puts you need to flip worlds, but you're also pretty much right on Kefka's tower. So save you a little bit of flying around too.
Yeah, that Stone Cold Stoner from Shadow, not quite online yet, but it's coming along. Yeah, I believe, how much was it? Was it 1198 or 1200 or 1202? It was
like $1,200. Yeah.
It was 2 north or above 1200 GP.
I thought he already bought it. Did he? Oh no, I guess not.
He did not. He's in go mode, ladies and gentlemen.
I saw him. I thought he bought it. I didn't realize he just peaked it.
I mean, in this economy, even at this point in time, where all you need is one Esper, you still gotta try to save some money.
Yeah,
it's hard out there. If his heart desires, there are some more earrings for Turdsman.
Yeah, and the hesitation there was trying to decide if the earring is the best use of his money or not, and I kind of think at this point it is. You got a bunch of stuff to sell if you find like an elixir or something like that you want to buy in the item shop.
So Keith, in his search of Espers, looks like may choose Tritox spot just because he can start doing some dragons now. You think that's what he's doing here?
I mean, that's definitely what he's doing here. I don't know if I love the play, just because 2 more. Well, you can get 1 more dragon. I guess it is viable if you go in with 1 dragon, because you can get 1 from Opera House very quickly, and then you can get 1 from like Kefka's tower pretty straightforwardly. So if that's your plan, I think it makes sense to get that stat boost. Just because of the way the flag set works out. Like if there wasn't that dragon stat boost, I would not think it was a great play to come up here just for that chance at 1 Esper from Tritox.
Mm-hmm.
But you also do get a extra high tier item here from Red Dragon, so that could be something useful as well.
Yeah, Keith could use a few more Illuminas right now.
Yeah, ooh, looks like Turdsman is going to stop. Looks like Turdsman is going to get dragons too, stopping to do, Opera House Dragon.
Yeah, if he does the Opera House Dragon and then both dragons inside of Kefka's tower, he doesn't have to go up Nourish and World of Ruin. He can hit his and kind of work it into a path that takes him to the end of the game.
Yeah. Actually, if you're planning on doing the dragon here, I might think this might be a case for doing the what I always refer to as the full right. I don't know if there's actually a term for it, where basically put your entire party on the right thing, go through, do the Inferno spot, and then in this case get the dragon as well. Then you Warp Stone out.
Mm-hmm.
Just to make sure everybody gets the benefit of all that experience you're going to get from the dragons.
Yeah, this will be Turdsman's first dragon, and if he does want to do a full right clear, he could potentially knock out 2 more. He could do the right side dragon, work his way up to the switches with everybody else, and then double back through and do the middle side dragon as well, and that will be his 3rd dragon for his plus 20 stat boost. And then he can do a full clear up the middle after that. But that's all assuming this Ice Dragon slows down and stops taking out party members.
Yeah, when you start off with a good "you best be frozen," that's not really what you want to see as your very first move.
I think.
Also, we didn't mention this, but the scaling here, it scales all the way up to level 50, which is a little higher than what people are used to from Ultros League. So some of these late game bosses will be kind of nasty because they can have more attacks than you'd normally be used to.
Yeah, just the other day I was running a practice seed in this, and I ate a Ultima from a vanilla Outlet weapon from Floating Continent, and it's never a fun experience when you get Ultima'd by monsters you never knew could cast it.
Oh, nice. And Keith is rewarded with a Esper in addition to the dragon, so that is very good news for Keith. That's really what you want to see here, going back into heal, and then I believe Keith has already done most of the super quick checks, but I could see maybe doing like, this would be a case for try to do the 2 checks in Magitech Factory, perhaps. Because we know Trench is an Esper, but I can't imagine you do Trench at this point, not knowing what it is, because that's kind of a long commitment.
And you're seeing the plus side of those two Illuminas. Keith hasn't ran into any troubles in a boss in a long time. And this Ice Dragon is giving Turdsman a lot of trouble. Turdsman, while ahead, already having the unlock. He's behind on the offense, and this is going to be how Keith catches up and passes him. Yes, Owzers was an Esper for Turdsman earlier, so that's an option for Keith if his heart desires. If he is so inclined.
Looks like Keith is in the world of Rune and doing this dragon, so might be fastest just to go up and do that right here. We'll see what Keith decides to do.
Yeah, and we'll see the difference in the offense level here, as after Turdsman is struggling so much with the Ice Dragon, Keith is going to have no problem with it.
Interesting. Looks like, is Turdsman going to do the dragon up here as well? Looks like it.
I guess so.
I guess if you do have the Warp Stone, this actually isn't... It feels like it's bad because you're seeing all these screen transitions. It feels like it's a forever walk. But if you really want the experience on your entire party, it might be quicker than the full right bailout strategy and then walking again. So, or at least it's very, very close. So maybe just think the second dragon, then split up the parties as normal, and then just kill the third dragon on the way.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, yeah, you do see the difference in sheer offense from Keith's side. That Ice Dragon that took Turdsman several minutes, Keith just rolled right over it with the power of Illumina.
Yeah, and Final Fantasy VI, offense is what makes the world go around. Defense, while appreciated, is not how you get through Final Kefka in a lot of these fights. It is all ducking your head and moving forward as fast as you possibly can.
We might... Okay, let's see where Keith's going, because... Okay, yep, looks like Magitech Factory. Because I did see Keith check the levels and check the blitzes to see if he had Bum Rush. I wonder if we might see him swing by and pick it up. That is like a minute-long cutscene if you include the time to fly over there.
Yeah, I'm not sure what Keith could be looking for here. You would almost, at this point in the game for Keith, you'd almost cherry pick an item and calculate the odds of that item appearing in one of these shops. Or you could cherry pick the item that would benefit him the most, and the odds of it being in the shop are so low, and he's so well equipped right now that I think that was about a 10-second time waste.
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point, I mean, really the only thing, I don't even know what you would want from a weapon shop.
Yeah.
The only thing you might want, like maybe from an armor shop, is if you could find like a Minerva or like some elemental shields. But yay, that's what, 4 items out of 255. It's not exactly betting odds.
Yeah, it's only really appropriate to do that this stage of the game if you're like 2 pieces away from Merton protection and you have the money to fund that purchase, because there's a wider range of Merton protection out there than there is weapons that are going to greatly improve what could happen here over in Illumina. Yeah, for Keith here, it's just a matter if he runs into one of the possible dead checks in the first fight and has to do one more. But he'll get go mode out of one of these two, I'm sure of it.
One thing to note is that Keith does have a significant level advantage. I think Keith's party is something like 10 levels higher than where Turdsman is, so.
Well, Turdsman does have a level 48 shadow.
Yeah, I mean, Turdsman's high enough level, like, you wouldn't expect a ton of problems, but it is. I think Keith's average level is somewhere in the 40s, whereas Turdsman has a 48 shadow, and then every couple other guys are in like the high 30s.
No, I think Turdsman has 40s across the board now. I may be mistaken, but we'll see here in a minute because he's going to load up for Kefka's Tower on the menu here. And of course, per usual, I am mistaken. Oh, never mind.
Yeah, I guess there's a 36 Mog, which is sort of bringing down things.
Now let's see if Keith gets go mode from Doom.
All right, there you go. Bail out, Keith.
Yeah, Keith, find that warp stone, Keith, and let's get moving. So depending on how much preparation Keith is going to do here, our runners are going to be entering Kefka's Tower at a minuscule amount of time apart from each other. So this is very much anybody's race. I still put my money on Turdsman. He opened as a negative 300 favorite according to Vegas. Right now, I think it's shrunk a little bit. Keith's made up some ground, but I still think Turdsman is the favorite.
Yeah, and picking up this Bum Rush here, I completely understand why you do it, because Bum Rush is a great skill, but it's also adding about a minute here, so.
Yeah, I don't think damages Keith's opponent. I think his opponent is the clock.
Yeah, it does, however, basically give him 3 characters which are completely long-term viable on their own. You've got the 2 Illuminas, then Shadow with Bum Rush. You know, those are your 3 major damage dealers, and then Realm, I guess, is doing whatever Realm wants to do. Some magic or something, maybe.
Yeah, when Realm's your support character, that's a pretty good feeling. Shadow and Duncan are almost done doing the tango here. All right. If you are Keith here, how comfortable are you feeling going in the Kefka's Tower? You feeling pretty good? You got 3 super strong characters. You got Realm standing around doing non-typical Realm things. You got levels out the wazoo. You got offense everywhere you can want.
I am perfectly fine with stuff. Honestly, like, you know, being in the 40s, you've got basically 3 characters with long-term, you know, high-end offense. You've got calmness protection. I don't know if they have mute or not, but they do enough damage. It's not going to be super critical. And they also, one subtle thing about Blitz is that tier 3, where Train can really cause you issues eventually, Mantra does fix that. So that's a nice subtle thing as well. So yeah, I mean, I'm with characters all in the high 40s. I think this is about your ideal scenario, or as best as it can be without mute/doom. And the Inferno spot, just the fish. Not going to have any problems here. Neither runner will. It's just kind of a slow fight because you have to wait for the generic fish to get past.
I'm a big fan of clothing with fish on it. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, always good to have.
All right, so Turdsman is probably about 2 minutes and 30 seconds ahead here. Give or take Keith's fish counter, what he gets stuck with. What does Keith need to do to catch up the Turdsman here, Rusta?
I think it's primarily just executing well. I would say don't waste too much time like trying to optimize your menus at this point. Your party is set, more or less is what it is. And just, especially in combat, you have 3 characters who are going to be doing a ton of damage, and then a 4th who's probably not doing as much. And especially in these, when it's split up like this, don't waste time on actions of like, hey, Setzer's doing 9,000 damage and his partner is doing 200. Have the partner just sit there with their turn unused. That's one of those subtle things that time adds up.
Yeah, it's important to remember, while technically you're racing an opponent, you're an actual human being as your opponent, but your real opponent is always the clock in Worlds Collide. And that it can often get forgotten by a lot of runners sometimes, but your menus time, they add up. The longer animation time when you have one readily available and you chance forget about it. All those things add up, and it's a cumulative effort on your tab, not just how fast you can power through some stuff sometimes. And Turdsman for his 3rd dragon is getting a little blue dragon introduction.
And just having Celes just crush it for, 6,000 damage a swing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, even with not 100% HP, she's still doing 5,500. That's very good. It's a shame he doesn't have an offering for her.
Yeah, and so this will be, according to the flag sets, is plus 20 speed, plus 20 vigor/strength, and plus 20 magic power. So all of a sudden, Turdsman's fights are going to be a lot easier going forward. Also, 50 rages, which is good to know for the flag set in general, has no impact here because no one has rage.
Yeah, so his admin weapon wielder is going to get plus 20 strength, plus a couple of levels, and there's still 2 more fights for Celeste to reap the benefits of. It's not out of the realm of possibilities that she could be doing quad 9 damage here when she's at full HP by the time we start the final boss.
Absolutely.
And Keith is done with his fishing trip. He is off the coastline and back on the road.
Yeah, I'm gonna go kill a water dragon here and get his plus 20 to everything.
Which one of Turdsman's 2 parties did he put 2 viable characters in? I missed it because he has Celeste soloing the dragon and the other fights. Or was Mog his 4th character? I forget.
I think Mog was his 4th character because he did not take Realm.
All right, if your Turdsman here, and Celeste is just going to walk over what's up the middle, but those 2 side bosses are going to be pretty scary here to 1v1 with his weaker characters. What are some of the tougher bosses if your Turdsman you really don't want to see here?
Well, fortunately, Magimaster is off the table. I believe Turdsman has stop on at least a couple characters, so Poltergeist, Spicy Chicken can be covered. I think Doom might be difficult.
Well, Doom was out in the real world.
Okay.
I forget where Keith came across him. I think it was Magic Tech Factory, so Doom is not on the table for Turdsman at least.
Okay, then Goddess is probably, since some of his biggest damage dealers, like Celeste, are physical, Goddess is probably not what you want to see.
Yeah, if he sees Goddess up the middle, he's going to be in some trouble. Oh no, poor Keith.
Keith did save immediately before this fight, so...
Yeah, Keith is my friend, but I don't feel too bad when the Imperial goes down. But for my friend, I do feel it a little bit. But just a
Yeah,
quick
that's
trip
not.
back up, and he'll get another go of it.
Yeah, and I mean, knowing it's a blue dragon could at least, sort of be prepared. I think it was pretty much just bad luck that got blue dragon was just spamming clean sweep and aqua rake, so not a whole lot you can do there. But looks like Keith might be trying the second dragon, which I kind of like this idea if you're having trouble with the first. This is also his Illumina user, so presumably Setzer with 6,800 in HP and an Illumina, or excuse me, and a Blitz is going to be fine.
Yeah, Storm Dragon, one of the easier ones. He should have a pretty good go of this. Not too difficult go of this.
Yeah, meanwhile, Turdsman finds a statue boss that's Air Force, which can be kind of difficult, but with straight physical damage like what he's got, that's perfectly fine.
Yeah, with Blitz, I guess he moved the Lumina off to somebody else, or you would imagine if it was possible.
Yeah, and actually, Maug going down there on Keith's side is actually secretly probably a good thing because you don't really. Maug was not contributing much, doesn't need the experience, and so saving that animation time will actually be kind of a benefit. Meanwhile, Turdsman just cranking out 9999s from Maug and then like 8,000 per swing from Celis, so no problems whatsoever with Chardanook. Keith, I might be chugging a. Maybe Keith has been tracking health here or hacking health here and knows there's only one bum rush away. I would at least be considering chugging an X potion here to make sure. Oh, good enough.
Yeah, no brisket, no biscuit, and Keith gets his biscuit. And how many more bomb rushes do you think that Storm Dragon could eat? He was 6 or 7 deep already.
Yeah.
And with all those stat boosts now, his bomb rush will be doing quad 9s for sure. The good news for Keith is his offense is absolutely loaded, and some all-time offense. You can't do much more damage than quad 9s, and that's what he's going to be doing with some of his characters. The bad news is he's quite a ways behind. Tersman just has one more fight here. Arusta, Tersman, we had mentioned earlier. Who's this boss going to be? Let's pause it and speculate. Oh.
Too late, but
too late.
Tunnel armor, which is going to be just fine.
Yeah, Tersman taking down a piece of Imperial machinery as well. Feels pretty good. And that's a pretty decent Sword Tech 7 from Shadow now. We saw him try to do the Stunner earlier for just 900 damage. But that's a respectable Sword Tech 7.
Absolutely, and the other good thing is that, it's not controllable, but Turdsman also has plenty of controllable damage, so won't have to worry about accidentally killing one of the parts before they want to, because one of the things about Kefka's Tower, the final bosses, is that they all have counters, and in a lot of cases, those counters are pretty nasty, so you need to make sure you kill them in the right order. For example, you don't want to trigger Quake accidentally on Tier 1.
Yeah, there are an order of operations for all the multi-part tiers. On tier 1, as Turdsman will show us here in just a few minutes. Was I mistaken? I thought Turdsman was done with all of his statue bosses.
I thought he was as well, but I'm not going to have any issues here with Tritok because
Yeah, he does have
Fire
fire
2,
too.
Fire 2 is going to just rip this to shreds. Meanwhile, yeah, Setzer might as well stop using Setzer or just have him sit there as an item bot. That 400 damage is not a relevant thing here.
All right, so as we mentioned earlier, we went over a little bit of the event details. This race, while between an Imperial and a Returner, will have no bearing on the team times or any of the team scoring. This will allow both runners to gain some individual glory. And an important stat I would like to point out: I just double checked the official event rules, or excuse me, the official stat sheet. And right now, the returners are 2-0 in skirmishes against the Empire. And if Turdsman keeps this pace up, we're going to be 3-0, ladies and gentlemen. That's going to be a huge boost to armor round and a huge crushing blow to the Imperial side.
See, as usual, the returners are bragging about stuff that doesn't matter. They wish they could do so well in the... I haven't actually run the seed, so I have no idea if this is real, but I'm going to pretend it is. They wish they could do so well in the actual Battlegrounds.
Yeah, this is a really good time for Turdsman for a flag set that's as difficult and challenging as the Veldt can be. He's going to have a potential to come in under 90 minutes here. I would say probably 145 was the Mendoza line. The average time of a lot of people I saw runs in practice races, and then when Jex Rocks ran this, I believe he was flirting with the 2-hour time mark. So the coming around 90 minutes is huge here for Turdsman. Yeah, Andrew Rancho guessing 10:23 Kefka time here. Typically, that's about how long the average Kefka times takes, assuming you don't wipe, is between 10-ish minutes. Keith will probably have a faster go of it because he has the better offense. He just isn't there yet. Tersman will probably be more closer to that average time, but as long as he doesn't counter any extreme hiccups here, it's his race to lose. We got an 11:45 prediction from CC Runner 149. CC Runner 49, I am not familiar with you, but maybe you are and you go by a different name in the Discord, but I'm going to give you the Drinks Glue challenge right now. Is it going to pop up? Come on, bot. Maybe it's D. There's our Discord link. All right, CC Runner 149, I'm giving you the Drinks Glue challenge. The Drinks Glue challenge does not mean you run down to Hobby Lobby and buy a gallon of Elmer's glue and attempt to drink it. What I would like for you to do is join that Discord link, come on in, say hi, and just get your feet wet and learn a little bit more about our community. If you come on in, you'll meet a great group of great people that love to enjoy and teach each other about a great game. It's one of the friendlier Randomizer communities out there. Come on in. We'd love to have you. At me, I'm Drinks Glue in there as well, and I'd love to say hi to you.
Yeah, and there's a very active beginners channel and a lot of people who are willing to help out newer players. So it's definitely a good way to get started. Plenty of options.
Yeah, the Drinks Glue challenge does not involve any liquids. I understand that is very confusing and misleading, but please do not consume any adhesives tonight. If you do so under your own direction, please and thank you.
Yeah, meanwhile, Turdsman just rolling right through Tier 1, no problems whatsoever. Here on Tier 2, I don't know if they have mute or not, which is nice primarily as a time save. Not really a concern in terms of danger here, but Magic casts a lot of slow spells, so it's always nice to mute it if you can.
Yeah, the real danger on Tier 2 comes from what I like to call Tiger Face, or everybody likes to call Tiger Face. Excuse me, and the machines, the gears in the middle. But the machine gear in the middle part called tools is weak to instant death. But I don't think Tersman has any instant death you can cast on it to take advantage of that. CC Runners corrected me. He had already joined the Discord, and he's an Imperial side. That's why I didn't recognize you, because I pretty much cut out everybody on the Imperial side out of my existence. They are no longer alive to me. They are all dead. So I apologize, CC Runner.
See, now that's typical. Now that is typical returner right there. Here on the Imperial side, we welcome everybody. That's why we just take over all the places, because we want to really be friends with everyone.
Can I ask a question? As an Imperial, as half of Tersman's party is frozen. That's not important. What's more important here is did you vote for Emperor style, or is he a dictator? We're not really clear on that on our side. How did he come into power?
You know, he was selected based on really his qualifications. He is one person we really respect. You know, I am definitely not saying this under any sort of duress. There is no gun to my head. Don't worry about it. Don't ask. Don't look behind me. But yeah, I mean, as CC Runner points out, he has the best facial hair, and really, how else could you decide? Our Empire is also, by the way, the Empire of Keith, because all the Keiths in the Discord are currently on, as far as we know, on the Imperial side. So really, it's the Empire of Keith, and Gestall's just kind of there.
I will concede that the Empire does hold a 2-0 Keith advantage at the moment, but give it a few weeks and maybe they'll flip flop like Celeste did.
We shall see. We shall see. But meanwhile, we should be talking about Tier 2, except Tersman is having no problems whatsoever with it.
Yeah, Tersman, while we've been engaging in petty feuds, Tersman has been making quick work of Tier 2. Well, about as quick as, not as quick, but as well as you could have, I should say. He's going to eat his 10 hits here, but he's down to just one part that is really no threat to kill him, just to kind of disable him. Because magic, the last part's left, death counter. Well, when they drop below 10,000 HP, they will start countering with the spells and possibly quarter. So quarter won't kill you, but it will take a character down to a quarter of their health. So it will disable you a little bit, but you know, Turdsman's pretty much done with this tier.
Yep, there we go. So this is Tier 3, which one couple interesting things here. There is, by the way, if you're new, there's a final boss guide on the FF6 Worlds Collide wiki, which is very nice and very helpful to have, which sort of describes each of these tiers. In the back, there's what we call Girl. She's only 10,000 HP, but is immune to all elements, absorbs all elements, really. So you need some kind of physical damage. Not an issue here for Turdsman, of course. And then the front side, which I believe is called Sleep or Rest, does Meteo, which does a decent amount of damage, and Train, which gives you all sorts of bad status effects once it gets below 10,000. However, for Turdsman, enough health that probably not going to be an issue with either of them.
Yeah, it's sleep or rest. You know, it's like color or how you spell color with the U or without the U, depending on what country you're from. It's kind of one of those things, but either way, we know who we're talking about here. Another interesting part, some of the best items in the game can be stolen from these two tiers. The back part will hold a Ragnarok, and the front part will hold a second ammo weapon if you are so inclined to pick their pockets, if you will.
Yep, the other thing, and you'll see they're casting Golem, is that, as we mentioned much earlier in the seed, when you kill the front part, it casts 1 to 2 attacks of Calmness, which is just straight up instant death, but it's considered a physical attack, so Golem and Fenrir are basically the best because they make you immune to it. Phantom also works, or if you get really desperate, you can have something like a Mirage Vest works, or if you get really, really desperate, you put on beads or shields or evasion and just sort of roll the dice and hope things work out for you.
And when Rest drops below 5,000 HP, he will start countering with Meteos, which is a pretty deadly non-elemental attack, as you can see. But Turdsman has no problem doing that last little bit of damage. His Golem's going to block all the Calmness, despite its 2 very frustrating attempts for Sleep. And Sleep is officially put to rest, and we're on to the last boss.
Yeah, meanwhile, one minor bit of tech you might have seen there is that while the calmnesses were going out, Turdsman was sitting in the menu, which is called weight tricking. Normally you use it, to keep a boss from doing too many more attacks when all your party members are queued up. In this case, the reason is because Mog has that death counter, and being in the menu pauses that death counter, so making sure that Mog didn't accidentally die from the countdown.
All right, Turdsman with the last but most important part of the puzzle left to solve. But he's got the offense for it. As long as he doesn't pick this fallen one and then accidentally trigger an ultimate, I think he's going to wrap this up pretty cleanly.
Yep, and straight to the Beyond Chaos phase. Skip the fallen one entirely, which you can do. I believe it's 30,000 damage before Kefka gets a turn.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, Kefka does not counter during this charging up phase, so I would guess he's not going to get a single attack off here.
Characters do not lose buffs between phases, but there are some caveats to that. So if you cast Golem on tier 2 and then go up to tier 3, that will go away. And we'll elaborate that more later on for you, CC Runner. Turdsman is taking down Final Kefka. He's got the shebang going on. We're going to get him in here for an interview for his great victory tonight. Rooster's going to start formulating some questions he's going to throw out at Turdsman, and we're going to check his status right now. Oh, Turdsman agrees, ladies and gentlemen. He's going to be joining us shortly.
And actually, the guessing game, so I was the closest with... but the actual time was 8:07, which is very, very fast. Keith might actually be even slightly faster than that. I don't think we timed the exact times Keith started, but he's also doing crazy amounts of damage on his side, so, or at least very close to that time. So both runners are going to be very, very strong here. And I believe we are joined by Turdsman, GG Turdsman.
Thank you very much.
Turdsman, that was a phenomenal showing.
Side,
a 128.05 on a Veldt seed.
At least very close.
That's
to that
about
time,
15 to 17 minutes below the Mendoza line. Some of the average times I saw during practice phase. That's fantastic. How are you feeling right now about that time?
I am vibrating. Those 20 stats make a huge difference. I was really worried at the very end. I got a pretty early Kefka unlock. I was like, okay, cool, 53 minutes. I got time to go. I'll get some levels, go knock out a quick drag. Oh, right. And then I went to go hunting a little bit, and the first one was dicey, but the second one I just obliterated him because Celeste was at like level 45 at that point. And
yeah, so I saw. I mean, that's one interesting thing that you did, which actually Keith did earlier in the seed, is you went up to Narsh just for that dragon. What was your thought process there? Was it just to get the 3 dragons as quick as you can, or?
Yeah, I figured it was I could warp stone out of Narsh, and I couldn't warp stone out of the Fanatic's Tower. There were a couple chests along that way, and also Mog was doing well by the time I got all the 3 dragons locked in, but my main damage was Celeste, and I guess I actually had Berserk, so that would have worked just fine. But yeah, I just figured I can warp stone away from Narsh, so I'll go ahead and take that one. I couldn't remember if you could have access to Mount Zozo without Cyan, so I decided against that one.
Yeah, so we had actually discussed that in the comms booth. I've been told Drinks Glue says you cannot, and I'm willing to trust Drinks Glue because Drinks Glue, I believe, had one of the top times in the initial async, so probably knows what they're talking about.
I have no idea what I'm talking about. Don't let that time fool you. I have no idea what I'm talking about, my friend.
It was more of a Mr. Magoo type of situation. Does that reference work anymore?
Works for me, at least.
All right, that's good enough.
So I mean, what's your thoughts? No spoilers on the actual seeds, of course, because some people in chat or in the comms booth may or may not have run any of the seeds. But big picture, what are your thoughts so far on the Battleground seeds?
Oh, I love
how
them.
the Battlegrounds were up and
They're great. They're the changes on paper are not that severe, but like just a couple little tweaks here and there really make you like refocus how you're actually playing this. Like I've had to unlearn a lot of Ultros League habits during this. It's been pretty cool. Like even something as simple as making the shops less valuable makes a huge difference to how you want to route your early game, where you're hoping to get power from. It's super interesting.
Yeah, and you really took advantage of that 30% randomized chest. You went to returners, and you had a pretty juicy returners. Followed it up with a couple of red caps and South Figaro and a force armor. You had quite a bit of money to get that egg early on. Did you debate getting 2 eggs when you came across them in Thamasa?
Oh, I'll get as many eggs as I can carry. I just I had to like scrounge around for somebody else's trash in Thamasa to actually afford it. So I figured like one's fine. I think I had the Atma weapon at that point, so I knew I was going to want and Shadow also. There wasn't any the sword tech buff isn't floating around anywhere, so I knew at least Shadow was going to want to be a pretty high level.
I believe it's level 44. Shadow gets Sword Tech 7, so
yeah.
Ultras League, that's pretty high.
Yeah.
But in this flag set and with the egg, it was no problem. Did you ever debate about going and getting Bum Rush?
Oh no, I completely I think I had kind of given up on Setzer by the time I was really starting to get everything rolling. I kind of forget about Bum Rush actually. Mm-hmm. Like it's got the little cutscene, so you don't have to level somebody up to like 72 or whatever ridiculous level it requires. But I completely forget about actually bothering to go and get Bum Rush.
And we got a question from the chat for you, Turdsman. From loyal viewer Nobody War. Nobody War is asking about Magitech and Veldt Continent. You had access to both of those pretty early, but you never went to either. Were they always floating around your head, or did you decide, 100% I'm going to fade these tonight, unless I have to?
I kind of I try not to do more than one multi-check, and I kind of I don't know. I've been starting to treat Narsh as that if you have Mog with you, because you're doing a bunch of stuff. It usually takes roughly 7-ish minutes, so it's kind of equivalent to one of the other multi-checks. And I just knew if I got really unlucky somehow, didn't get if it was a dead check or a character somewhere along my route, I could dip into Magitech facility and just get those, because those first 2 are pretty quick. It's just that third one that takes forever. So I kind of had that as a backup just in case.
And your and Keith's pass didn't cross quite a bit. The first 10 minutes you were almost neck and neck and at the same spot, if not just a few moments ahead of each other. Y'all did branch off when you went to Opera House and Keith went to Narsh to take some grind fights. But y'all did a lot of the same seeds. I'm going to point out something to you that Keith did stumble across was the Coliseum. And he found some Illuminas for Blizzard Words in the Coliseum. Ooh. He went there, sprayed everyone in, went to Daryl's tomb, if you remember, on the chest at the top of the stairs before you go down to the experience egg room, or the room 2 levels above the experience egg room. That was another Blizzard Worm. He took down Magimaster, went back and treated himself to another Illumina. So that was the main difference between y'all, but it didn't matter. You still took him down, my friend.
I definitely would have liked to have those Illuminas for sure. But how were they? Were a lot of people able to equip them? Because I kind of I don't know. I found a role for everybody. I wasn't really bummed.
So, Celis and I think Setzer both were able to equip them.
Okay, yeah.
And Shadow can equip it as well, but he has his Shadow doing Bum Rush. His Lumina is just there for the stat boost.
Yeah, I definitely would have hung on to Setzer if I could have popped an Illumina on him.
Actually, he lost his Setzer. His Setzer lost on tier 2 while you joined the interview room. It was quite comical. He had got muted, and then he did... what did he do? I forget what he did, but he did the healing. He did the healing blitz, jumped off screen, never
Yeah.
be heard from again. He healed.
Spiraler, I think.
Yeah, he did spiral. Healed all 4 spots for 9-9, 9-9, and then chunked up the deuces, and he's gone.
Yeah, that's always a bummer.
Keith officially getting the GGs in chat as well, ladies and gentlemen. Shows Keith some appreciation. I know he's an Imperial, but I'll give him some as well.
Hey, the Empire is evil, but not all of his citizens are.
Yeah, it's not his fault he was drafted over there. He's still got that dog in him. Alright, Arusta, do you have any final thoughts for my good friend Herdsman before we see if Keith would like to join us as well?
No, just GG's and good luck in the rest of the seeds, except not super good luck because you're on the wrong side.
Interesting. That's a weird opinion.
Yeah, it's been a little hostile commentary booth. Earlier was reading off my address and telling people where I live. It's been a little awkward so far, but we've worked around it.
Well, that's good.
All right.
Anyways,
Thursman.
thank you. It was a great race to come, and have a good rest of your evening.
All right, thank you very much.
All right, appreciate you, Tersman. And ladies and gentlemen, we're inquiring with Kicking at the Rocks if he would like to join us as well.
And we are joined by Keith. GG, Keith.
Thanks.
So, what'd you think about the seed overall, and especially later game that those dragons seem to give you a bit of trouble there in Kefka's Tower?
Yeah, I knew it would be like, because they're full power, so I knew there'd be a rough go. That's why I waited, but I wanted the stats that they gave. So I figured I'd try and see what they were. It's once you kind of get it's definitely one you have to get used to, because it's very different than what we normally do. So just getting some early levels, because you have to catch up, but lots of things are free, which is nice. And then relying on the Coliseum, which panned out. I probably could have gone there a lot earlier, because I knew the one item I needed to trade I had right away. So, but it's nice. I like it. It's a big change of pace type seed. This one I think was pretty generous. Finding an egg and then finding one Illumina, then right after that getting a second one, but not a lot of magic to be found until the very end. But I mean, I didn't hit a ton. I don't know, I found I kept finding things I needed, so that was nice.
Yeah, definitely. And so I asked this of Turdsman as well, but so no spoilers about any of the seeds you may or may not have run, because there are probably people in chat who haven't run all of them. But big picture, what are your thoughts about the Battlegrounds thus far as an event?
I think it's really, I think it's working well at a lot of levels. The top tier ones are vying for top times, but I think there's a lot of knowledge share. It's been helpful to me. I used it heavily in this seed. I had, my team's advice went, very heavy into how I ran this seed. So I like that. That was fun. But I like the different flag sets, and I think it's nice to keep people invested. They may not know they're gonna win, but they're contributing, and I think there's a lot of I think there's a lot of learning about different flags and how to approach things. And we'll see as it changes from week to week. Obviously, the flag sets will change, but I like it. I think it's working so far, and the post rooms are more interesting. I feel like this way.
Yeah, definitely. So we asked in chat if anybody had any further questions. Haven't really heard anything. So that's kind of all I've got. Drinks, you got any final thoughts? Any final questions?
I apologize for my silence. We were all celebrating in the Return to the Secret chat over Turdsman victory. But Keith, even though you lost tonight's race, I would still say that 137 was a really good time. And a lot of the practice races I saw, 140-ish was probably the standard time. So you're above the average time. How do you feel about that time overall? You feel like you could have, obviously everybody feels like they could have done something better or worse, but overall, how are you feeling about your performance?
I'm happy with that. I think that's good. I probably could have. I mean, it's kind of a crapshoot. I probably could have looted less, but I like to get extra stuff before the Coliseum because it can be such a, you never know what you're going to go into. Otherwise, I think, I was, taking out bosses pretty quickly, so that I was happy with that. I don't know how his routing went, but I was good. I liked a lot of the choices I made. So
it was pretty similar. The first 10 minutes, you were pretty much moments apart from where you were in the world. After that, y'all branched off a little bit. Turdsman went to Opera House first. He took a grind fight outside of Opera House, went in, and then he was really cooking after that. Had little resistance. And then eventually, as you know, later on, you made your way to Opera House, and y'all went to the same places, just not at the same time for most of the seed. Except for Tomasa. At some point in time when y'all linked up again and were in sync racing for Tomasa when y'all found the eggs. And it was almost neck and neck to see who would buy an egg first. But y'all strayed, but y'all pretty much took the same path. You did find the Luminas. Turdsman did not. Turdsman never visited the Coliseum. Y'all both bought that blue dragon and the same dragons outside of Kifis Tower, but Turdsman was able to persevere and take down the blues dragon, although it did almost wipe him a couple times. He flirted was a disaster as well for you, if you were wondering. So even though it's a 8-minute separation, it was really neck and neck throughout most of it.
Interesting. What was his offense? The Illuminas were carrying a lot of mine. I guess, I don't know. What else was he using?
He had his egg on Celeste, who was doing, slashing stuff with the Atma weapon. And then what else? His at some point in time, around level 40ish, he switched the egg to Shadow. And then his sword tech came online, so his Shadow was, I think 48, and his Celeste was 50, and everybody else was just standing there, trying not to get in the way, healing a little bit, supporting.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I think I just avoided. If Opera House wasn't there, Floating Continent was a thought, but I just avoided that and M-Tech until the end, when I just go to M-Tech at the end just in hopes to get that Esper, and I did. The only other thing, unless, I didn't want to do Serpent Trench at that point, and I didn't want to do... I guess I could have done Owsers, but I didn't think I needed it. The only thing I enjoyed more was watching Setzer Spiraler himself out of the Tier 2. That was fun.
That was very fun.
Otherwise, because he also had Golem, so I just had to block the calmness. So I got that worked. But yeah, because no one else could have an Illumina. He had the Illumina and he had Bum Rush, and then he had almost full health, but all of a sudden he's gone. I was like, that's not fun. But I had already seen him finish. I was like, well, we'll see what happens here. And it, because the Bolt 3 was nice at the end because I didn't get that until that was my last Esper. So
Yeah, he's like Poochie on the Itchy and Scratchy show. He just went home and he never came back.
So yeah, otherwise it was I'm I don't know where I could have cut off a little bit here and there, but I was happy. Given the way that seed works, I'm sure we'll see some different ways to do it, but I'm good with it.
No, I think y'all both took the correct approach, and we had talked about this in our super secret chat. So don't tell your fellow Imperials, but we kind of all arrived on that. Taking a couple grind fights is the way to go before you want to start taking down these tougher bosses. But just keep that between us, okay? Don't tell anybody else.
I'll try.
Thank you. I appreciate it. All right. Tersman, or excuse me, Keith, is there anything you want to plug before we exit on out of here?
No, the only other thing, I think it's soon. I think it's next week. Anyone who likes Chrono Trigger, the Jets of Time, Camp Specchio, beginners camp is going to be starting up. I'll be doing that. I know One Free Fits is helping organize that. Another one of our runners. So if you're interested, you like the game, come check it out. It's a lot of very beginner friendly, getting people to know that rando.
Yeah, I'm actually One Free Fritz has mentioned that a couple times, and I'm debating about doing that myself. It's always Chrono Trigger is my favorite game, even over Final Fantasy VI. I'm one of those people that where I'm in the moment, I can focus on one thing. But again, I don't have the link for you handy, but it's easily out there if you're familiar with how Google works. The Jets of Time Discord, Hotline and the beginner channel are their equivalent of a beginner channels where you can find more information on that. And One Free Fritz, if you're not familiar with him, he is a certified dog, and he has a broad palette of RPG and randomizer experience, and he's a great person to learn from. So if you've ever wanted to get your feet wet in Jets of Time, now is the time. No pun intended.
That's all I got.
All right. Keith, we appreciate you joining us. We appreciate you racing for us, and best of luck to you for the rest of the Battleground event. And hope to see you in some more skirmishes. This was fun.
Yeah, it's always fun to do. It's good to get some more coverage out there.
Yeah. All right, my dog. Have a good night.
All right, see you.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, for those of you that stuck with us to the end, we appreciate you coming on out and watching us. One more time in the chat, if you have not joined our Discord, come on in, say hi. I promise we don't bite. We are hostile towards each other at the moment because of the Battleground event, so we are a worlds divided that is currently colliding. Actually, that was a pretty decent pun. Arusta, thank you for having me with you. You got anything else you want to throw out there, Arusta, before we sign off?
Nah, absolutely not. I mean, it's been a lot of fun. Just even though we're fussing and feuding, I mean, it's all in good fun. And so, I mean, I think the Battleground event is really, really just an interesting way to, work together as teams. And so if you're new and you haven't joined, of course, join the Discord. Like we mentioned earlier, there are plenty of beginner-friendly channels, people who can really help you get started, really willing to help out newbies. So hope to see you there, and thank you for watching, everyone. Have a great rest of your evening.